Good morning and happy Friday, everybody. Okay, so it's Friday. It's actually Feral Friday. I woke up completely feral this morning. And what I mean by that is that I want to break all the rules. Um, and I feel challenged. I feel really challenged. And when I feel challenged, I kind of want to be a little bratty. So it's Feral Friday. Um, I feel challenged. Thoughts from the card today. We're going to talk about what's the difference between being bold, living boldly and living unwisely, and the profound effects on our self-worth when we do these things. Okay, so yesterday I met with my therapist for the first time in the last month because of wonky schedules and whatnot. So there was a lot to kind of update her on and talk to her about and, all the feelings and everything. And I realized last night as I was going to bed, I was thinking about how challenged I felt by her. Because some of the things I shared with her, she pushed back on, which is exactly what she's supposed to do. And she challenged me to ask me if some of these things that I was thinking about doing or pursuing or, all these things that I was doing, thinking, pursuing, if I was living boldly or if I was living unwisely, if I was using my wise mind. We've talked about what wise mind is, the balance between the emotional mind and the analytical, logical mind, right? So feeling feral Friday. So that's why we're going to talk about these things today. Okay, so let's first talk about the difference between bold living and unwise living. So bold living includes taking calculated risks. Calculated risks are decisions that are weighed carefully and give consideration to consequences. When we live boldly, there is a risk. Now, both living unwisely and living boldly both require risks. But when we live boldly, we are living and making risks that are calculated. Like we understand that there could and probably will be consequences. Now, remember when we talk about consequences are good and consequences can be bad. They're not just all bad. So it's just being aware of the risks and understanding and calculating that into our plans, right? Whereas living unwisely is we are making impulsive decisions, right? We're making impulsive decisions and we're just acting and not thinking. Okay, so there's the difference there. The second point, I think, and the difference between living boldly and living unwisely is when we live boldly, we're walking outside our comfort zone and we're embracing new challenges, right? Whereas when we're using our unwise mind, we're ignoring the consequences. We kind of said that we're totally ignoring the consequences. We're disregarding any possible outcomes that might come because of our actions, because of risks that we're taking, right? When we're outside our comfort zone, because that's really what being outside our comfort zone is taking the risk, right? Doing something that's different from what we have already done or are presently doing, right? Okay, so then I think the third major difference between living boldly and living unwisely is when we live boldly, we take responsibility for our choices and the consequences. So again, consequences, good and bad. When we live boldly, we're taking responsibility for those bold risks, calculated risks that we took. And then when they pan out, we're taking ownership of that. But we're also taking ownership of when we make decisions and things go south, right? We take radical responsibility. That is living boldly, right? But unwise living is when we are taking unnecessary risks, right? When we are doing engaging in harmful and dangerous behavior. Okay. And we know what that is. We know the difference. We're adults. We know the difference. And I think also when we are living unwisely, we are lacking self-control. Okay. When we're living boldly, we have self-control, we have self-discipline. And I talked earlier this week, I think it was, talking about self-discipline. And so when we're living boldly, we're living in self-discipline. Whereas when we're living unwisely, we have a lack of self-control, and we find ourselves struggling, resisting temptations that are around us. Okay. So those are the like the differences between the two. Because ultimately, the big difference between living boldly and living unwisely is that living boldly means we're taking calculated risks to achieve goals. There is a reason why we're taking the calculated risks, that we're doing things that are outside the box, that that we recognize that there might be consequences for, to move towards achieving a goal and a purpose. Whereas again, living unwisely is not for any purpose other than like we're angry and so we're acting out. It's like very emotionally driven, rather than moving towards like a goal, using the compass to move towards something good and better for ourselves. And I think the important thing to understand about boldness is that it's finding the balance between caution and courage. Right? So that's what boldness really is finding the difference between the boldness and the unwise is finding that balance between living out loud, living courageously, and living cautiously, the self-preservation safely, right? So finding that balance, that's the big difference. But here's the thing is, there's a profound effect on us, right? So why do we want to live boldly? First of all, we need to figure that out. Like, why do we want to live boldly? Like, what is the important part about living boldly? What is so important about it? I think the first thing about why we want to live boldly is that it boosts our self-esteem. Okay. We boost our self-esteem. It allows us to have a bigger sense of fulfillment and to feel accomplished in our lives when we make bold decisions. When we are living unwisely, though, what happens a lot of times is it's very dangerous to our self-esteem. It's very dangerous to eroding our self-confidence, because bad decisions bring oftentimes bad outcomes. And over time, if we just keep seeing that, we become super insecure. Right? So again, difference between living boldly and living unwisely there. When we live boldly, we are increasing our confidence, right? We're increasing our confidence, which allows us to overcome challenges, which allows us to have a deeper sense of belief in ourselves and our intuition, because our intuition guides us oftentimes when we're living boldly, to take the calculated risk, to do the thing that's a little outside of our comfort zone. So when we live boldly, one of the great things about it is that it boosts that confidence in ourselves and in our own intuition, which is super helpful when we get into super challenging times and we have to rely on our intuition oftentimes to get us through those challenging issues that we're facing. And when we live boldly, I think we also live with more of a sense of purpose. When we live with a sense of purpose, this allows us to live a more fulfilling life, right? But it also allows us to pursue things that we never would have pursued before, right? It allows us to accomplish things we never thought we could do before. And it makes us try new things, right? We experience new things. We experience new sensations. We just experience different things that we never would have experienced before. It gives us a greater sense of purpose when we live boldly. Yeah. Okay. So, and I think when we're living unwisely, unfortunately, some of the effects on living unwisely is that we tend to get more shame and guilt, right? For when we make those bad decisions, when we make mistakes, we're automatically going into shame and guilt world, because we have a lot of self-blame, and then that ties to our self-worth, right? And so when we're making bad decisions, we're making unwise decisions, our self-worth like plummets. And this also contributes then to the perpetual nature of limiting our own personal growth, right? So by living an unwise life, making unwise decisions instead of living boldly and making bold decisions, we are limiting our personal self-growth, because we tend to then avoid challenges and we avoid the self-discovery that boldness provides us. So some of the other profound effects, those are some of our profound effects, right? So how do we live boldly? Like, how do we do that, right? So I'm a bold living coach. That's like my whole thing, is teaching people to live authentically, boldly, and out loud. And that it's, why is it so important? Well, I just gave you all the reasons. So if you are challenged by that, let me tell you, I'm going to give you some free tips of how to start living more boldly, right now. You can do it right now. And this is going to be part of your challenge, is to pick some of these things that I'm saying of how to live more boldly. I want you to pick one of these things. Okay. Okay. So how do we live more boldly? We have to set ambitious goals. We have to set ambitious goals. That means we have to dream big and we have to create vision for ourselves. Now, I'm someone who's kind of a visionary. And so I think very futurely, and I think in big picture idea. And so achieving goals for me is fun. Like it's fun for me. So that's why I do what I do, because I want to help everybody have fun with their goals and to achieve those goals boldly and out loud, and for them to have ambitious dreams, ambitious goals. I don't want you to choose these little tiny goals that you absolutely know you can meet. I want you to choose the big thing, the thing that's kind of outrageous, that you're not going to be able to do it without divine intervention, because then that means it's bigger than yourself, right? It's not just about you. It's about the bigger picture. Okay. And then the second thing I think is obviously we need to step outside our comfort zone. And what does that mean? What does that look like? That means trying new things and facing our fears. Face your fear, try new things. Today, I'm trying a new lipstick. That's how I'm being bold, just in one little tiny way. It's a different color. It's very dark and very red. Normally I wear like hot pinks and stuff like that. But you know what? Like I said, I was feeling very feral this morning, and I've had this lipstick for quite a while. And I'm like, it's just, because it's summer, and I'm like, but it's kind of more fall-y, it's not like I'm not sweating constantly. So it's more fall here in Tennessee. So we're wearing the dark red lipstick today. And you know what? I kind of like it. It's making me more feral, I think. I'm pretty sure. Making me very bold. So, we have to try new things, whether it's a new color of lipstick or a new activity that we're going to do over the weekend. And we have to face our fears. So what is the fear that we have about the lipstick? That people are going to think that it looks trashy, or that it doesn't look good, or they're going to think they're going to perceive me in a certain way. And so I'm facing that fear, and I don't care. I'm wearing the red lipstick. I like it. Anyhow, we're going to take calculated risks is the next way that we're going to live boldly. So what does that mean? That means we have this idea, like, this is something I don't normally do. It's a risk. Okay. We're first going to recognize the thing that we're going to do is a risk. Now we're going to make the pros and cons. We're going to weigh the pros and cons. What are the pros of this thing that I want to do that is very risky? What are the cons of this thing that I want to do that is very risky? And when we do this, when we take calculated risks, here's the thing about it. We're going to fail. I'm just going to tell you, sometimes you're really going to fail. Living boldly means embracing the failure and using that to know that we learn from it. We learn really good lessons from it. That's living boldly. Embracing the failure, embracing the suck, embracing the fact that we're gonna mess up and that it's okay. It's okay. That would be the next point, would be the embracing those failures, learning from those mistakes, being open to those new experiences that are going to be required of us when we're making these bold decisions. And you know what? It also means persevering. It means persevering through the failures and doing it anyway. Still pursuing the goal, still pursuing the dream, and continuing to do it boldly, not shrinking back, owning it, right? Owning those mistakes, taking responsibility. We've talked about that. We've talked this past week, I talked about owning our responsibilities, right? Owning the consequences for our actions, and following through and persevering. And this is how we build resilience. Living boldly is about building resilience. It's a big part of it, is building resilience, so that we can overcome more challenges by living more boldly. Okay, I think are we on 5? I think it's the 5th thing is living authentically, being authentic. So that means we have to express ourselves honestly. Like today, I'm just being honest with you guys. I woke up completely feral. I'm in this crazy place in my head where I'm like, I wanna do something fun and different and new and have an adventure and take the risk, And so it's flirting with that unwise line a little bit when you're in your feral era. But I'm expressing myself honestly with you guys. I want to be authentic. Being bold means being authentic. That's what it means. It's being true to ourselves and remaining in alignment with our values, our own personal values. And so, sometimes it's hard, right? I think that's hard because of perception. We're so worried about how people are perceiving us at work and at church and in community groups we're in and at our kids' school, the teachers and the coaches and all that, our friends, our neighbors. Like, we are so worried all the time what people think about us. If you are online for any moment, you're worried about how you're being perceived online because that affects all the other things, because people talk about things. So, we have to align with our own values. And when we're being authentic, we express ourselves honestly, but we also have to be in alignment with our own values and remain there, even when they're challenged by others, right? But we can do that kindly. We can do that gently. I think that's an important thing to remember, and we can do it compassionately, in empathy for others, because we don't all agree. Remaining in alignment is super important, but not everybody's values are the same. So we have to be mindful of that too. Okay, the 6th thing is we seek new experiences when we're living boldly. That's how we live boldly. We seek new experiences. So we travel. We experience new cultures. We experience different ways of thinking, meeting new people. When I really started stepping outside of the comfort zone of meeting new people who were nothing like me and didn't believe the same things I did, that was super bold, and it literally changed my life in a myriad of ways that I'm not going to discuss right now. But overall, it's been a really, really good change. And it's stepping out boldly to meet new people and be open to new ideas and allow people to share themselves with me in a vulnerable way. We have to seek new adventures. We have to, which goes into the 7th way that we can live really boldly is what it means to live boldly is to constantly keep yourself in a growth mindset, meaning we have to believe in our potential, our own potential. We have to believe that we can learn new skills, we can learn new things, we can try new things, that we can take on new ideas, we can change. we have to believe in our own potential. And that also means that we have to put ourselves in places where we can learn continuously and seek new opportunities. And again, that goes back to when we're seeking new opportunities to also be okay with failing, and missing those opportunities. Understanding that sometimes we miss the opportunity because we're not ready yet. And it might be a pause. It might be a not ever, no, forever. It might mean that we have to pause something in order to truly grow, to truly be in that growth mindset. Being in the growth mindset doesn't mean like going, and never resting and never stopping and never pausing. Being in a growth mindset means that we're open to new opportunities. And sometimes that new opportunity is also resting and pausing. So just be aware of that. So your challenge, I already told you guys what your challenge is. Your challenge is to do one of these things that I'm telling you to the ideas that I gave you to live boldly. How can you live boldly this weekend? What is one thing you can do? Choose one and let me know how it goes. All right, guys, have a happy Feral Friday.